So what happens when we are receivers? Healthy receivers. I always have to put that down because put that into the picture. Knows a healthy receiver knows how to respond and understands the overarching picture, which is seeing the giver, Hashem, in the picture. That's a healthy receiver. All right, but what happens when we're healthy receivers? Attachment. There is an attachment to the giver, the givers. That is what Hashem is looking for. Why did Hashem put giving and receiving as the model of unity? Because the catalytic action is the receiver. The catalyst to the whole attachment is the receiver. The ability to receive and recognize the overarching picture, knowing how to attach to the giver. This is the koach of a woman. It's called anava. It's called humility. Why? Because you have to make room to receive whatever it is, even if it's not right. Torah is very it shapes our intellect and our emotions, but it doesn't go with our natural flow of intellectual of thoughts and emotions. So with that in mind, we have to understand, how are we going to make things work? What's things work? How are we going to bring Hashem into this world? And that's what makes things work. It makes everything work. Nature, it's the basis of everything. A marriage is here as the catalyst for all the blessings that nature is, because nature is there to support the marriage. Support a husband. I mean, we have to eat, we have to clothe, we have to have housing. That's all nature. And it's all there to support ultimately the life of the family unit, the unity, and bringing Hashem in. So this is the greatness. The greatness. Being great is knowing how to healthily create attachment. And when we do that, the result is something called chen. Chen isha al bala. A woman is considered to have chen in the eyes of her husband because she draws him into this dynamic. It is the spiritual, this is the spiritual mechanism of the marriage. That's why they say a man without a wife is in darkness, because by drawing her husband into the bigger picture, Torah was given to her first. She has the bigger picture first. Drawing her husband into the bigger picture creates an attachment every which way. Him to her, her to him, the both of them to Hashem. Hashem brings Hashem into this world. That's chen. So we have here the idea that is a koach, the koach of being a receiver, is the koach of creating attachment, healthy attachment, which in turn is what Hashem is necessary to bring Hashem into this world. Because we have to attach to Hashem in order to attach to our husbands. We have to know how we're supposed to do it. And it's got to be in a way that is growth. It's got to be in a way, if it's not, they keep on saying, levater, and to give, it's sort of like levater should mean giving, not giving up. When you do something for a second and you move over, that's humility, right? You move over for another way of doing things, and for another person to express themselves.
You're not diminishing yourself.
You're not diminishing yourself. That is, people don't realize because they feel threatened. They feel diminished. If you're up, if I'm giving, then I'm down.
Right.
And the idea is this is where where really it's like it's creating a safe and equal playing field. If I can move over, make room for you, that means, and feel safe, and you feel safe as well, because you've been able to express yourself. Nobody crushed you, nobody, right? We have that. That is actually it, and should create attachment and healthy feeling expanded. It's expansive.
Mhm.
In attachment, there's an expansiveness that incorporates HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that's how this attachment is. So when we talk about Vitor, what we're just saying is we are being Mavajer, putting what I think in the center as being the most dominant and right way of doing things.
Mhm.
What we Mavajer is I'm going to take myself out of the center and put Hashem in the center, and doing so, I can make room for another way of looking at things. So this is exactly the way you said the Tumah. How can I make room for all the Tumah? It's the same question. I went to Rabbi Haber's Shir on Gedolim. It's the same question about how do we make room for all the Chilonim who really built up this country on false ideals, on false ideology. They wanted to erase Yiddishkeit as we know it.
Right.
How do we live with this and live with that? And we have to, in the overarching picture, this is where Rabbi Cook comes in, I think, and this as a gadol and who saw, and we have a way to somehow or other make room for this and for that.
Yeah.
These people were shlichim in their own way, even though they were misguided, but they had a purpose, and we have purpose.
You know, if it's in Tanakh or the Navi, then Hashem says that process comes first, and then Hashem will pour His Spirit.
Exactly. First comes establishing the physical reality that you get. I mean, always the physical comes first. That's why a woman is entitled to know that she has food, and that's why the community is so generous here, making sure that single moms and widows and whoever else are taken care of. Because you can't flourish without having the basic physical needs taken care of. The question is then, is the emotional, right? Because a lot of people can have homes and physical needs are being taken care of, and kids who are leaving, let's say leaving Yiddishkeit, don't feel that their emotional needs are being addressed in the home, right? So we have to be able to say that, but we know, so for parents who don't do that, don't usually have it to give. That's the problem. They don't have it to bring yet.
Yeah,
yet.
They have to learn.
They have to learn. That's where all these interventions now with Rabbi Russell, right, all this. Yes, this is all here now to help the parents to make room for another way of doing things, and by feeling safe in themselves. There was these children they destabilize the parents and them sometimes the parents' marriage.
Yeah.
So we have to know, how do I feel safe enough myself that I can make room for the other person? Why? Because the overarching picture is that Hashem sent this. Right. This is not just like the Chalutzim who came here, the seculars who were going to make a whole new Judaism and a whole new whatever. But that was part of a divine plan.
Right. But it seems to me with the family dynamics here, the woman wants to be attached and emotional, and the man wants to follow halacha and keep the structure. That's where this huge tension comes in.
Yeah, right. So, but I'm saying when a man feels a wife's attachment in a healthy way, the women who are not getting their romantic or ideas of what attachment, what a husband's attention
They
should
attach to
be.
the children.
Right, it's all, then it's,
Yeah.
everything just gets, so we have to, that's why I keep on using the word healthy. Healthy attachment means I know, I can make room for the other person, give them the benefit of the doubt. I know it wasn't your intention. When you said this and this, it made me feel unsafe. I know that wasn't your intention. Or it made me feel, I felt belittled. And somehow or other, the husbands have to hear what the wives are feeling, but only in the context that they are redeemable. Otherwise, it just falls on deaf ears. Everybody then starts getting defensive, and the women can get defensive in a minute, and the men can get even more ornery in a minute, and it is the whole show, the show is over. So it's not about being vulnerable. It's about being attached to Hashem. Hashem is sending us this picture. That's why I say the overarching picture here is Hashem. If this is a divine script, and we have to, if things are going to be repaired in the area that we're seeing threat, in the situation, only you, Hashem, can do it. I have to keep holding on to the other person by the heartstrings. Otherwise, if I don't, they feel judged, they feel, that's it. That's it. The outside world is just waiting to swallow up. So what does it take for the parent, and what does it take for the couple in general? It takes the couple this ability to create anava, humility. I can receive that this child and this assignment is from Hashem. And I need to make room in whatever way possible for Hashem in this picture, because only Hashem can really sort this out. It's too much. It's too complicated.
And be willing to grow and learn another way.
Right. Only you, Hashem. Only you, Hashem. So this is very, and it's very humbling, because it's very, you have to be constantly like, it's like a self-check all the time. Am I in connection? How am I receiving all the circumstances in my life? Am I in connection with Hashem through them? Can I make room for everything and everybody, even when I don't feel like making room for them? Now, the question I come up with is, what happens if somebody, the key to this is giving women the ability to feel safe in themselves and in their marriage, safe and protected. So again, you have to remember, ultimate safety and protection comes from Hashem. If a husband is not willing to check the windows that are locked at night and the front door is locked, or goes on vacation and doesn't even pay attention whether he locked the front door, and the wife comes home and she sees that the front door was unlocked and she was expecting him, he was the last one up, and she's feeling very vulnerable and unsafe, and he really is like that. He just doesn't seem to take care of these things. But what is this indicative of? What is it indicative of? What do I have to do to be able to make this work? So safety and protection doesn't come from my husband. Safety and protection comes from Hashem. And I tell the woman, this is a real life story. I said, when you came back from that vacation, everything was okay in your apartment. Who protected that apartment? In the end. So of course, if you came back and the door was locked, you would assume, okay, you locked the door, and that's why everything's safe and everything's safe. But you came back from the vacation and the door was unlocked and everything was just the way you left it. It's not a great feeling for a woman to have to feel that she has to be the one on alert. Usually a woman likes to feel in the physical area of safety and protection that the husband will do. What happens if the husband is not there? So I told her, I said, look, I think maybe Hashem is saying, in this particular case, you are responsible. If he can't do it, you come. If there are other areas that he's also not responsible, then it becomes, it's like a whole syndrome. And she does feel, and this is what happened, she felt unsafe financially as well. He was investing, but not doing due diligence, just like, and just being overly optimistic, leaving the door unlocked, optimistic that nothing, I mean, I don't think he consciously, but it's not in his radar, in front of his radar. It's not easy. It's not easy. But I can tell you, like, I know this woman, and I would say that what I did is I didn't minimize it, but I didn't make a bigger mountain out of it.
Right.
That was the key. I said, this is hard, but hard is not.
Circumstances could change. People go through, as they get old, dementia, and your role might have to change.
Things change. I just said, this is hard. It's a hard marriage, but it's not bad. Bad is if you feel disconnected here, and if you feel that there's nothing here.
Mm-hmm.
And there were redeeming things. One of the main things, of course, from a Torah perspective, is that intimacy was good,
mm-hmm.
It was healthy, and there was enough goodness about him. He wasn't a great parnosagiv, he wasn't this, but here's the clincher. I know the children. And the children, that's another signal. She took on hard, is not bad. She stayed with her tefillas, davened for her children, and the children, Baruch Hashem, are pretty good, given the whole situation. So I always, when women come to me, I always ask them, they say, this is wrong with my husband. I said, what's doing with the children? How are the children? If the children are doing okay, and I'm not scoring. I'm just saying that they feel in their own lives that they're either married or they feel productive, or they feel whatever they're doing, they feel it might be different than what you want, but if they're satisfied, then that's your wink from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? You stayed in the marriage. It wasn't easy, but Hashem put you together. It is an avoda. It's a test. We're all in tests, different degrees. Some days the tests are very hard. Some days the tests every day is a test. And every day there's forces that could be attacking us, and Hashem is holding them back.
Mm-hmm.
Hashem is holding them back because He loves us. And we have to be able to say, I love Hashem. That's why I said, when things look destabilized, as Rabbi Breitaway said, just say, I love Hashem. I learned that from Rabbi Victor Miller. Every day, once a day. When we say it, Hashem Elokecha, but to say it in your own words, in your own whatever, has value. Now, again, this is all anava. This is all humility. To put a judgment and say, this marriage is not, and I'm not, I know circumstances, whatever, but when it's not viable, it's not viable. And nobody is, and a person has to separate from the neshama of a husband. That's what we have a get.
Mm-hmm.
A get is complete separation from that neshama. And marriage is complete unity with, and as I told you, a divorced woman does not have to do what I did to separate from my first husband.
Mm-hmm.
It's
done at the
it's
get.
done at the get. It's ripped. It's ripped apart, and becomes a unity with your husband.
Yeah,
there's no question about that. But as I said, whatever we have different signals, and let me tell you something. Sometimes the children maybe are so, but the grandchildren. The children went after Jared, or the grandchildren. Something we don't know, because sometimes the gifts come beyond our lifespan.
Right.
And you know what I say then? When things are hard and don't feel like I can do anything much about it, I say, Hashem, bless it. Bless it. Bless the mess. Bless whatever the hardships. Bless it, the outcome. If I'm zocha to see it in my lifetime, great. If not, Hashem, only you can bless us. Bless the mess. Now, I want to tell you something. I'm going to give a little story, but I'm going to take it off the recording for a minute. because pause. This. Okay. So what we want, this is the model for interdependence, which is the healthiest. Interdependence means that we are attached to each other. It's the healthy, it's the healthiest way. Each person is doing their part. And the woman has the koach of Kabbalah. She has the koach of Anava. She is showing, she's demonstrating her attachment, which in turn is the catalyst for the giver.
What can she say when she feels the giving is too forceful? Like he wants to be a giver and give something that she's not ready to receive at the moment, or it's not, the timing is not
right
to receive.
Yes. Well, that's a great question, because that's like him initiating. She's not even interested. Like he's coming home. I mean, I'm thinking in another context. Husband goes on vacation and he brings home his wife a scarf that she can't stand the colors of. And how is she going to handle that? How's she going to handle that? How was she going to say? Just say. I mean, how honest and,
Well, let's say
I think that
he wants to teach her something and she's not in a frame of mind,
right.
or not interested altogether.
Yeah.
Wish I could.
I wish I could be there for you right now. It's not, I don't have the focus or the motivation yet. You can tell him inspiration to be able to take this on. I wish I could. I'm not there yet. The inspiration to take this on.
Because I know someone who wants to be sure that the wife knows how to do everything when he might not be there in the future, and what's going to happen to her. So he has to teach her everything.
Right. Doesn't usually feel so incredibly geschmack.
No.
Sometimes you need a third. Sometimes you need a third party. Sometimes you need you have to do it in a. Yeah, you have to. It has to be a plan and a program and little bits and pieces. I mean, yeah. But I'll tell you something. It's better than, in some ways, better than a woman who's left and she
not
nothing.
Knowing anything.
She doesn't know where any of the codes are. Nothing. So, but yeah. So the idea is to build. Marriage is about building this model of interdependence. Based on the foundation. The foundation is the power of receiving and humility. With that, we build and we create the amount of blessing that the giver and our husband is able to bring to us. And in order for him to be able to bring blessings, a woman has to know how to ask for what she needs. So maybe she needs. So let's say in this particular case, the husband wants to give her something that he thinks is for her good. I know better than you what's for good for you, right? That type of thing. And she has to be able to ask what she so it requires a bit of thinking it through and saying, I see it's important to you that this information it needs to be given over in a kind and gentle way. Little by little, maybe she can say, like, maybe once a week we could spend an hour or half an hour. She has to decide the dosage.
Right. Okay.
Not to throw the baby with the bathwater, but she has to decide a plan. It's important. And it's important to you and it's important to me. And I think it should be important to us. But how it's going to be delivered makes a difference. And that's where I think though it would mean a lot to me if we could do this in a way that it feels. You can say feel. You need a tissue here. No. Oh yeah, I have other tissues. I can. A way that feels safe or kind or gentle, or how would what would be help to
Right, no, because I realize underlying that is the man wanting to be a giver. He wants to give, he wants to teach.
Yes, right, but she has to be able to ask for what she needs so that she can be the right, in other words, we're not there to just, we're not a dumping ground,
Right.
We want to receive. We have to receive it and it's important to receive
Right.
it. Yes,
You could
it's important.
say,
Yeah,
I would really like to, but this isn't the time, or
but this
don't
is
have the head for it right now.
right. The dose. Let's. But I think that would be a little bit. That might be dismissive. Let's talk about a time that we can discuss it, or a amount of, so that we can make a schedule and a plan. Yes. So again, reminding ourselves, this is the anchor. This is the anchor of the marriage. This is the foundation of the marriage. Is this dependence, this slut. They call it, what's the word? Constant interdependence. And actually, in the end, each is receiving from the other, because in other words, he has to be able to receive your requests in order to be a giver. But he has to hear your requests. And the women today are not presenting the requests in a way that the husbands can hear it. So that already stops up the system. So everything has to be put in the right way. So our ability, so if we want to request that he speak to us in a different way, that's going to be dependent on how we received what he originally spoke, how he said it to us to begin with.
Right.
So I know it wasn't your intention when you said this and that to make me feel insecure, unstable, unimportant. I mean, you have to, whatever the situation, there's a lot of emotion, and reminding ourselves that in Yiddishkeit, what we do is the emotions are all valid. It's the impulse that we have to slaughter. Every emotion has validity and can be expressed in a way that makes the other person feel our attachment. But what needs to be slaughtered, that's what happens when we take a korban. What we're doing is the korban is representation of impulses. An animal only lives by impulses. These all pre-programmed impulses alone. You can't expect the animal to do what Hashem is asking us to do. It's not possible. So when we slaughter the animal, we're slaughtering it. They call it the animal side of us, but I like to use it just as the impulse. The impulse to act on the emotions is got to be, how do we do it? How do we deal with our emotions? You have to express it. Every emotion has to be expressed. That's why I don't believe, but it has to be expressed in a way that makes the other person redeemable so that they can hear it. And then we can make the request so they can be the giver by asking for what we need in this situation. All right, so that's a way of life. That's the way of life. This interdependence, in other words, always setting things up in a giver receiver, making, modeling and showing, and when we ask for what we need, that's also humility, because it says I'm not independent, I'm not complete on my own. Men don't generally ask. I mean, I always say to women, if your husband's telling you that he's giving you the compliments, but then sometimes if something is not right, he's letting you know. Well, you have both sides. You have the woman, the couple, the elderly couple. They married 50 years, and how did it go? She always ate the tops, and he always ate the bottoms of the chicken, and each one thinking that they were being mevater for the other person, whereas
that wasn't even what they wanted.
Right. It wasn't what the other person wanted. But something, that's a schar in and of itself. In other words, it depends who the couple is and where they're up to. If the husband says, I like generally all your food, today this spice just wasn't, then you have to be able to be grateful, because you don't have to want to. So he should just say it, but it should be said as best as we can. I want to hear this. If you could say it in a kind and gentle way, or in a context of that this is not how you see all my cooking. You have to be able to we're like shaping each other all the time, shaping each other. He has things that I don't have. I have things that he doesn't have. Shaping, that's what Hashem, and then always this shaping is the shape, ultimately is shaping a vessel to bring Hashem into this world. Which now, so what we're taking away from this, both the husband and the wife, is the centrality of me. The centrality of Hashem is what we want, is what marriage is. And that's why a marriage will bring, and any interaction with another Jew will bring Hashem into you. You'll see who's in the center. When you talk about it's the principle of the matter, and Hashem is saying you have to recha kamocha, then it's not, who's in the center. If you say Hashem is in the center, I can judge favorably and make room and say, you must be in a rush. Did you want to go ahead of me? Find some way to be able to be down the kafschus, or make what I call make the other person feel redeemable. Important enough that they're worthy of being redeemed. Because if I don't redeem them, sometimes that will not make them, then they can't be redeemable in their own eyes. It's like each one of us has the key to the other person's jail cell. And that's how Hashem does it. Remember with this is not the jail cell, but remember with the two when Yosef was in the pit, and we had the steward and the baker, and each one had the other person's dream, right? Now Hashem just sort of like he makes it somehow or other. There's an interconnectedness between us. So my face is a reflection of, in a way, if I'm smiling and I see, then you feel good about yourself as well. If I, being my own thoughts, but I'm frowning and whatever, it feels like there's still some sort of staticky. It's not impermeable, but there's some sort of a wall, because you've closed yourself off, not just from me, but from everything. Right? So we have this opportunity to recognize how interdependent we really are. And that's why Hashem made us social beings. And that's why we have, as social beings, He made the whole universe, all mankind social beings, so that Jews would come in and use the Torah ideals, not ideas, but ideals, because these are ideals, which includes restraining the impulse. So slaughtering is when we do with the korban. For us, we're not slaughtering the impulse, because the impulse is still going to be in us. We're restraining it. But we have something right away to replace it with. Prayer, right away. Help me, Hashem, to restrain the impulse. Help me, Hashem, to stay connected. Help me, Hashem, to be a receiver from you. Only you, Hashem, can send this type of test. But it's a test. Can I restrain the impulse? And in Yiddish, there's a very good expression which I learned from Rebbe Tusky. In order to have relationships, you midach aushalten. It's called withstand the discomfort. Midach aushalten. And no relationship, because the discomfort of the impulse is so great. But that's the difference between boys and the men, and the girls and between a plain person and a tzaddik. That's why they say if a person's been embarrassed and they restrain
Yeah.
themselves, go to them for a bracha, right? That's where self-restraint is in the picture. It isn't that I have to, I can feel my feelings, but I have to restrain the impulse.
Right.
That, I think, is a very healthy thing. So when I restrain the impulse, then I turn to Hashem. Now, how am I going to deal with these feelings? Well, I'm going to express them. How am I going to express them? I'm going to express them in a way that I get the other person's ears. Oh, I get the other person. Hashem's coming into the picture. It's a whole different dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I think they call, this is above psychology, right? Because it's bitochon, it's trusting Hashem. And so I'm going to do my part in protecting myself by protecting the other person. How did I protect myself? By saying, wow, you must be in a rush. Did you want to go ahead of me? Because if I don't say that, I'm going to either be angry or I'm going to crumble.
They're going to go on the attack.
Right. So I'm protecting, who am I protecting in the end of the day? And in the end of the day, what's happening is Shekhinah is coming down. This is how we bring, one of the foremost ways we bring Hashem into the world. I mean, it is the most, is marriage relationship, because marriage is the generative relationship. It generates the tools and the outlook on how to deal with less intense relationships. Mm-hmm. But marriage is a very intense relationship. It's an intense relationship with Hashem. And therefore, you can't play with, it's like when you're talking about having an intense relationship with anybody, it's like playing with fire. You have to really know how to be careful. And it's not so pashut. That's why I can be teaching this to myself forever, mm-hmm. because it's not pashut. It's not pashut. Okay, so anyway, it says here, so anava is a way of life. And the opposite of this is rebelling and seeing myself in the center. Mm-hmm. That's rebellion. And the fact that somebody else is in the center is not the end of the picture, because the way I interact can help them. First of all, it establishes that Hashem is in the center for me, and it helps them also be able to make space for another way, because they come in and you can, it's like what they say, you can tame the lion, so to speak. But you're taming, though, is the impulses that are making a person speak a certain way. This is resilience too, by the way. Mm-hmm. It's because today that's what they talk about. Every little, right? Right. You have to train for resilience.
One of the most important tools to teach kids.
Right. So you have to be able to know, how can we lower everything? How can we like it and communicate, and everybody feels better? And why? Because Hashem is in this. Hashem is in this. So the fight and flight is only in extreme situations, but when we're talking about human situations, the only thing I say is if a person's really somehow or other fell into a bullying, a real bullying husband who is bullying and they, what do you call it, a gambler, and she's putting them all in debt and needs medication, is not willing to take it, and he goes around, terrorizing everybody. Okay, so we know that Baruch Hashem, that's fight and flight. You flight, you get out fast. That's what I told you. I had one student that I had to do that for. It was just unbelievable. And now she's running this the English-speaking program for Beit Malka. The house for it's a getaway for abused women and their children. Wow. It was only for Israelis, and now they opened up for English. Yes, she opened it up. She and another one of my students who also was in that type of a marriage. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now the interesting thing is that the way we carry this is really expressed in the expression of it, this humility and this attachment and this ability to loyal, it's loyal attachment, but not loyal, healthy. I keep on saying loyal, healthy attachment, right? This is nisiyat hachen b'nei ba'ala. This is what a woman is accomplishing in her marriage, and she is carrying this chen in the eyes of her husband, and this expression through this midah of anava. Anava, and that's the in Mishlei we learn la anavim yitain chen. Hashem, when a person has that real anava, Hashem is in the center. I'm in touch with that, with the overarching picture, and I can stay connected, stabilized. I can stay stabilized in this picture.
Tzaddikim or Gedolim are so
they hear
attractive
everything.
To people.
Of course, they hear the most horrendous things. They're not immune, and yet they because they're attached this way, so they know the bigger. So they'll give from their higher point their Eitzah or their psak, but in the end of the day, they understand the bigger Hashem part of the picture. People are very, of course, you can't miss it. When a woman presents herself in a state of being willing to receive, shel anava v'kabbalah מבעלה מוסיפות בכוחו להעניק לה ומושכות אחריה את כל ליבו. So she actually, it's like, see by showing her attachment, she draws her husband's complete heart towards her. What do we say in Eshes Chayil? Batach ba'alev ba'ala. Right. When a husband can trust his wife, this is the ultimate. Trust that she sees him with humble eyes and draws out that, brings Hashem in and makes him into our husbands to better givers. Better growth. It's like fertilizer for them to grow. Without the wife's, if they don't feel her attachment and trust, they can't grow. It's everything. It's the sunshine, it's the water, it's the fertilizer, it's everything. So they are like stunted. And that's why she pulls his heart towards her. And this is what a woman wants, but the women don't know how to get it. Because how can they get it in a world today where equality and independence?
You're not going to get it by demanding.
Yes, can't. Okay, so it says here that a woman who is known to be like this, you don't have to, but she's going to look towards her husband in a yearning way to receive from him everything, including the tests of life. But she knows that she's not alone in this, because as she receives it, she is also seeing the overarching, that this is coming from Hashem, and she knows her part. She has a part in this, and that part is to show her attachment and create, and that is the most dramatic impact on what a man can become. That's what we're saying here. So she's really in the driver's seat. And it's the most dramatic impact on nature and on how the blessings come down to all the nations of the world. So today we're feeling a world that's fragmented because marriage is fragmented. This idea is an ideal, but it's the ideal of humility as opposed to the ideal of arrogance. And we can we can all weave in and out. Ourselves and our husbands go into moments of arrogance where I know better and I know better and this, that. But we can also, but in marriage, we can pull ourselves out very quickly. The woman first. The man is never going to get out of the center if she doesn't.
Right.
Man is built to be a king. Chatan domem melech. It's not befitting for him. But if she's out and he's feeling already his importance in the ways that we're talking about here, then he will feel he'll feel that he's entered into a different dimension. In fact, your husband said he finally came to the conclusion that life can be beautiful. I mean, there's no question you can put that yourself into that stuff. There's no way you would feel that way if you didn't feel happy in this marriage.
For sure.
It's a big accomplishment. Big, huge. And it's the beginning of real potential, growth in that area, that emotional area, that's impossible. The man is constantly being, how do I say, the rug is always being pulled from underneath him, attacked, and, right? It's not possible. Not possible. So this is what we're saying here. Now, let's talk about judges, and we'll finish up on this, that a woman is looking to receive her own growth, her own importance, and her shape in life from who her husband is. A husband shapes the wife, and his strengths as well as his weaknesses. How we accept and receive both are really dependent on who we are and how attached we are to him, and recognizing hard is not bad. The worst thing is isolation and separating from. There are times the
Yeah, somebody who entered a second marriage, and she thought it was going to be a breeze. She looked at other friends who had redone it. She didn't know the struggle. She didn't know the work that went into it, and she gave that up.
Yeah.
Didn't even make a year.
Yeah, in and out, right?
Yeah,
because if you don't know what that this marriage is, this is the event. This is the greatest event on earth.
Unfortunately, even in the religious world, the women have an idea that they can do this tikkun on their own. I don't know where they get that from.
Everything. So, Ya'an ki gavoha benos, yes. So the idea is shakol mahuto b'tzniut b'derech shel kabbalah, our whole essence as benos tzion, as we're the bat melech. Our whole essence is receiving from the king in our home. The little K, the big K. Okay, and he says here, how are we doing time? Late. Okay, you have to go to your other class, right? Okay, so I'm going to ask you just to say one thing you heard today that stands out. You might need to just pull out my notebook. Here it is. You said you liked one thing that you wrote down. What was that?
Before that was about praying to Hashem, let me bless the mess, and please let me live to see a good outcome.
Oh, yes. Pray that you have to pray. Let me live long enough. Let me live long years to see
a good outcome. The
a
other
blessed
thing,
outcome.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful prayer.
The other thing was in Yiddishkeit, every emotion is valid. It's the impulse that needs to be slaughtered or contained.
Restrained. Yes, every emotion is valid. It's the impulse that needs to be restrained.
Well, that's why anger is compared to a avodah zarah, putting
because
yourself and your emotions in the center.
Right. anger is the impulse of expressing.
exactly.
You have to express emotions. That's what's so beautiful about Yiddishkeit. Express emotions. That's why I said you have to be able to make room for another way of looking at things in a home. With the teenagers, right? Make them feel important in their own home. If there's room for my opinion, there's room for me. Okay. Lovely. Oh, I'm just going to end the recording. Stop recording.